In Japan, roughly 75% of unmarried young adults aged 18 to 34 live with their parents. Such young adults are called ya ojisan kiyo, or kodo oji, which means uncle. It usually refers to an unmarried man who lives in his parents' house, even though he's well over 40 years old. Women who live under the same conditions are called ya obasan kiyo, or simply auntie. Many of these adults are called parasite singles. It's a harsh label that makes them seem to be avoiding independence and being lazy. But the truth is, most are struggling with economic hardships and tough life conditions. A 2025 survey by the real estate company Leaful took a closer look at how young adults are living in and around Tokyo, including places like Kanagawa, Saitama, and Chiba. The results say a lot about today's reality. Nearly 38% of people in their 20s are still living with their parents. That's actually more than those who live on their own. Even among those in their 30s and 40s, over a quarter are still under the same roof as their parents. Experts say that many adults still live with their parents because they simply can't afford to move out. Tatsushi Ogino, a sociology professor at Shizuoka University, has noted, "It's been revealed in several investigations that such people are not independent for economic reasons. Part of the problem lies in Japan's hiring system, which is quite rigid. Students have one main chance to land full-time work right after graduation. Miss that window, and it becomes very hard to break into the system later. Most end up in low-paying, unstable jobs with little hope of advancement. Some don't find any work at all. Over time, they grow older without ever building a career. As a result, a whole lost generation of youth faces long-term unemployment." Another issue is the crushing high cost of living. Urban centers, especially Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto, have become so expensive that many young adults simply can't afford to live on their own. In Tokyo, even a small apartment of about 30 to 50 square meters can cost around 156,000 yen per month, and monthly utilities for a typical apartment add more to the bill. As a result, only 30% of Gen Z own homes compared to 70% of baby boomers. For people earning average or below average salaries, rent can take up over half their income. Japan's minimum wage covers only about 60% of the basic cost of living. This makes living alone nearly impossible for many. At the same time, wages have remained stagnant, while upfront rental fees in cities like Tokyo can equal 6 months' rent. Add commuting costs and most of their salary is gone. Without financial stability, most Japanese are getting married later than before. The median age for marriage is now 31 for men and 29 for women. These parasite singles still living with their parents are silent victims of a broken system. For some, their situation is even worse. A few barely leave their rooms. In those cases, they're called hikikomori, people who shut themselves off from the outside world. With limited job prospects and growing older each year, they now face a future filled with uncertainty. Living with parents comes with its comforts. Parents often take care of meals, laundry, and daily chores, or at least share the load. There's also the emotional warmth of being in a familiar place, surrounded by family. For young adults, it means less stress and fewer responsibilities. They don't have to worry about managing everything alone, like cooking, cleaning, and paying bills. It's a simpler, more stable way to live, especially in tough times. Living with parents is also not necessarily seen as a red flag in the dating world. In fact, for some, it can even be a plus. During konkatsu or marriage hunting, being at home can signal financial stability. It shows you're saving money and making smart choices. For some potential partners, that's smart and responsible. Multi-generational living has deep roots in Japan. In the past, especially during the Edo period, it was normal for multiple generations to live under one roof. Today, it's not uncommon for parents and adult children to share meals from a convenience store. Sociologist Emi Oka notes, "The konbini is the new family table, affordable, efficient, and free from judgment. It's where generations negotiate shared survival. Many parents also prefer this setup. Most enjoy living with their adult children, especially as loneliness becomes more common in Japan's aging society. According to the Pew Research Center, 45% of parents say living with their young adult child has had a positive impact on their relationship. However, this arrangement isn't without problems. Overprotective parents are often called monster parents. They pay extreme attention to every detail of their child's life. Some even interfere too much by micromanaging their life. Some become too aggressive or disruptive. Psychologists say this kind of parenting can make children even more dependent. It also keeps them from facing real-world problems, which can hurt their chances of growing into independent, successful adults. The situation has led to what's called the 80-50 problem. It happens when parents in their 80s are still taking care of their unmarried children in their 50s who don't have jobs. In recent years, there have been many incidents and problems linked to this growing issue. Experts warn that if nothing changes, the 80-50 problem could turn into the 90-60 problem by 2030. 90-year-old parents still caring for their 60-year-old children who rarely leave home. Women now make up over half of hikikomori aged 40 to 64, breaking the old belief that this issue mainly affects men. And it's not just Japan. Similar cases have been reported in South Korea, with around 300,000 people affected, as well as in Italy and the U.S. But Japan remains the most affected. COVID-19 was a catalyst for the trend we're seeing today. Japan's economy was already fragile when the pandemic hit in early 2020. The country was forced into a state of emergency and its worst economic crisis since World War II. In just a few months, the country's GDP dropped by 8%. This was even worse than the crash in 2008. Jobs vanished almost overnight. Around 900,000 people lost work in 2020. By October, the unemployment rate hit 3.1%. Many part-time student workers were among those affected. Young people in particular found themselves jobless and struggling. Most had little to no savings, and credit card debt quickly piled up. So they were left with no choice but to move in with their parents. To ease the pressure, the government stepped in. They launched a support plan called the Subsidy Program for Sustaining Businesses. It helped small companies stay open and keep workers on payroll. Other social welfare programs were also rolled out. These efforts helped for a while, but the damage hasn't fully healed. For many young Japanese, the job market is still weak, wages are low, and life feels uncertain. With all these challenges piling up, it's no surprise that many young adult Japanese don't want to move out. Life at their parents' home seems comfortable to them, and most are in no rush to leave. Many also aren't interested in dating unless the other person meets all their standards. Living at home might make things easier for young adults, but it often puts a real strain on their aging parents. Many seniors are still paying the bills for their grown-up children. Around 1 in 5 people over 60 in Japan are supporting their kids or even grandkids. And when you count those with hikikomori children who rarely leave their rooms, that number climbs even higher. Now, many of these middle-aged adults have no pension or savings of their own. When their parents pass away, they'll likely need government support. This adds more pressure to Japan's welfare system, which is already struggling with an aging population and a smaller workforce. The issue is a culmination of years of slow economic growth, strict job systems, high living costs, and changing family values. Young adults aren't staying home because they're lazy. They're doing it because they have to. But as this trend continues, Japan faces a tough question. How much longer can families carry this load? And what needs to change to support both the young and the old?